Everybody, and welcome to Soul Simple Life Shifts. Today we are looking at surviving to thriving. That's the life shift that we're looking at overall. And there are a couple of ways that this shows up. So it's a pretty intuitive one. And I would say the majority of us are aware of when we are surviving versus when we are thriving. And I think that in large measure, the awareness of that is there for, like the vast majority of people. But what's not necessarily there is knowing how to shift it. And so I'm going to share a little practice that I do. Hopefully that will be helpful. But the first thing is to look at the frame of where in your life are you in survival mode? Where are you just surviving, getting by, doing what has to be done, settling, or otherwise doing, like at a low level hum, right? As opposed to really, I don't want to say pushing the limits, but really rising up into the fullness of who you are. So the shifts are from surviving to thriving, from just getting by to actually flourishing, again, individually and collectively. But let's look at the individual today. So, taking things as they come and getting through the day and, crossing off our things on our list versus really coming fully to life, flourishing, thriving. And then the other places this really shows up, and it's a really good one to check in with yourself on regularly, like every day if possible, but maybe once a week, really visit this idea of how am I feeling right now in my life? Do I feel bound and shackled and constrained? Or do I feel unbound and unrestrained? Am I in a mode of freedom and growth and even healing? Is there some movement, right? Or do I feel stifled and shut down? That's a really good indicator of where you are on that continuum of surviving to thriving. And in this case, we most definitely want to be at the fullest capacity that we can operate at without completely, not taking care of what needs to be done. I mean, it's not a matter of just becoming, solely focused on ourselves here, but the surviving to thriving shift itself is one that will really, really open us up. And I believe it's critical for humanity right now and for our collective experience. And with a lot of the things that are showing up right now, there's definitely a pushback from collective systems, from society itself, from various groups that we all are associated with, and communities and all kinds of constellations of people. There's definitely a pull right now because the systems in which, many systems, not just the big ones, all kinds of systems in which we have been entrenched, have in many cases calcified, and therefore the players in them, the contributors to those systems and those purportedly served by the systems, have also become entrenched in fixed ways of being that are not unbound and unrestrained, that are not free at all. And this is, evident even in free societies and in places where the entire mission or vision or goal of the system is for flourishing and for life, or at least it's said to be, and it's for ultimately what would be in that category of thriving. And yet there's a negative spin that happens in these systems that leads us deeper down into more and more entrenched ways of being and fixed roles within that system. And this relates to all of those other categories we've talked about so far, and some of which we haven't gotten to yet. But this idea of moving from surviving to thriving, so let's take it down to the individual level, because how we're going to get through this collectively is for us each to really anchor in really constructive and life-affirming ways of showing up for ourselves and for those in which we are close proximity, so that we can experience what it is to thrive, to come alive and thrive. So I think I didn't finish the one thought about maybe weekly. Look at, where am I feeling stifled, shackled, bound, constrained, restricted, constricted, all of those kinds of words and feelings. Where am I experiencing that in my life? It may be relationships that you have. It may be certain settings or environments that you go into. It may be specific areas of your life. There may be a passion, for example, or a creative practice that's beginning to feel a little bit, just slow and sluggish and not alive. So I like to think of the thrive and alive together, because what I want in my life when I think of thriving is I want to feel fully alive. You might think about, what does thriving mean to me, and write down some words. Maybe it's joy. Maybe it means to really feel like, an even balanced Zen state. Maybe it is, excitement. Sorry about the distractions there on the phone. And so ask yourself, where am I feeling not these things that are thriving to me? And how can I infuse more of me, more of what is authentic in me, more of my soul's truth and radiance into this area of my life? And how, in such a way that I feel free, that I feel like I'm on a growth trajectory, that I feel and help others feel. And we find ways together to amplify the feeling of being unrestricted, unbound, and free to express more fully who we are and who we hope to become, and who we are becoming and who we came to be. So all of these things are a part of thriving. But I think that it's important, number one, to know what that feels like for you, what it looks like in your life. Like maybe even write out your, the perfect day and the perfect year, or decade for that matter, in terms of, you can look at it either in terms of one aspect of your life or the whole thing. So the visioning is a really good thing here too. But if you ask yourself that question weekly, just like, where am I feeling constricted, or not me, or not just like I'm running and, low grade here, like how can I shift from just getting by and just surviving, just settling for, the same old, and allowing myself to feel so constricted and not myself? How can I shift that into a different experience of my life? And I want to say that this is one area where we often need support at various junctures in our journey. So seek out whatever will support you there. It may be a professional in what area of life you're looking at, whether that's financial or medical and health, or, mental health, or relationships, all kinds of things. So seek out support, but always come back to the feeling and the experience of thriving, flourishing, freedom, growth, and whatever other words that you come up with. Now, one other thing I want to share here is a Soul Simple life practice that I do. It may not resonate for everybody, but I'll share it with you. I call it the Happy Dance Happen Stance. So first thing is, it always helps me to shift, no matter what I'm looking at, whatever area of life, to literally remove myself from the situation when I can't do this always in the moment. Like you can't do it when you're in line at the DMV, and you're definitely not thriving because I don't have to go into that. But what you can do is, when you have the opportunity, make a note. I'm feeling like I'm surviving this, barely getting by. Make a note, and the moment you have the opportunity, in whatever way you can, even in your mind or heart or soul, you can do this, but I like to do it physically. Literally, find a little space, get by yourself and shake it off, and do a little happy dance, like a 2-minute happy dance. And the way you do that is shake off whatever the survival, thing that's dragging you down is, and immediately envision the higher reality, the higher harmonic there for yourself, for your life, for that relationship, for that experience. And you can do this going back to the past too. So do the little, shake it off, then do the little happy dance, and literally envision what it will be like, what it is like, what it was like. It's all one thing, right? And just feel that. Feel what you desire for just a few minutes, and do that little happy dance. Put on some good music if you want. Then the happen stance comes in. And this is very useful with reviewing a situation where, like, oh, I went through my whole day and I felt like I was barely surviving. Okay, look at what happened and then shift your stance. It's also very helpful to do this in particular instances. I had an argument with my lover or my friend, and I don't know what happened, but I do not feel satisfied at all. Take a moment, do your happy dance, get into that higher vibration, that frequency where you can then find true solutions that come from the soul, solutions, and begin to connect with the fullness of who you are, and then review what happened, or what, and you can do this future oriented, what would you like to happen. But let's stick with the example of an argument with somebody. What happened? Well, actually, I came into that conversation or that argument and I was already feeling weighed down and stressed out. So I wasn't in the best place to have the conversation. What happened? Oh, well, they said this thing and they triggered the hell out of me, but I didn't realize that's what was happening. So I just reacted instead of taking a moment to feel what I was feeling. What happened? Oh, well, I just spouted off the same old thing I always do and cited the thing that has not been attended to, like I don't know, you didn't clean the bathroom last week or whatever. And that's what happened. So now I know what happened. What happened to lead to me feeling like I was just barely surviving this situation. Great. Now, what stance do I want to take here? Well, number one, you can go back to the last video I made about the locus of power and authority. Where is your power? Where can you step back into that power, into your truth, into the knowing that you have, into that view of you thriving in this particular relationship dynamic or in this particular situation? Connect again to that from the inside out. And then what stance would show up as me thriving in this situation? And we can't always control if there are other people or external environments involved, right? We can't control that part of it. But what we can control is how we relate to what happened, what will happen, who we're being, how we're seeing the situation, and how we are freeing ourselves and others within that situation. So what stance am I going to have now? And we need to continue to ask that question. So that happen stance can actually be a very good catchphrase or key phrase to use and take through your day, just to reevaluate, am I surviving or am I thriving? If I'm just surviving, what actually is going on here? What is happening? And then, who can I be? How can I see this differently? How can I be differently? How can I free myself from these constraints or these limitations or this survival mode that I'm stuck in somehow? How did that pattern devolve into this? And what stance can I take now that is aligned with full thriving, with flourishing, with full expression, and with a feeling of freedom and growth? So I hope that was helpful. Just keep it top of mind as you go through your day. How can I move from surviving to thriving?